Yeah. And again, my name's Randy Tebby. I am the Service Engineering Manager with Emerson Climate, or Emerson Commercial Residential Solutions now. And I have been with Emerson for right at 35 years now, so quite a few years. But when I started to kind of got into the application engineering and then the service engineering group, one of the things I seen was there was a lot of information out there that was either in like the electrical handbook or in other areas that was kind of hidden and nobody really knew about where it was. So we tried to get some of that information out to the public and more visual. And if you were to look at the troubleshooting flow charts on the right-hand side of your page, there's two sheets here. And again, they can be purchased through the publication site. They've got a part number on the bottom of the screen, 2004 ECT-126. And that will come as a kit with two of the poster boards as far as troubleshooting guide starts and runs, and then troubleshooting guide not starting and running, along with a kind of like a desk mat where you can slide these things on into and have them sit on your counter. And I've got these actual mats sitting on my desk because when somebody calls in and they have an electrical problem with the compressor, it really helps me walk through as far as, getting them to check everything. Starting from the top as far as is the compressor running or not? Will it start and will it stop? Or what is that exactly is going on? Say the compressor is short cycling. Well, the next question would be, well, what is it short cycling on? Is it a low pressure switch? Is it a thermostat? Is it a high pressure switch? Is it the protector? And it allows us to kind of walk through the different scenarios as far as, troubleshooting and finding out what exactly might be going on with this compressor. Because as you guys know, the compressor, I consider it the heart of the system, and all the other components out there. If they have an issue or they have a fault code or something's going wrong with the other components, they can directly affect the compressor. So we want to make sure that we, check everything instead of just going right down to the red box at the bottom of the screen and say, change the compressor. So I find these sheets are very handy and again, very easy to use. Basically, it's just a flow chart. It walks you right down to the bottom. In the black box on the bottom of the screen, it actually has there's little notes, throughout the flow chart. Say when it says fixed connections 4 and 5, you can go over to the reference and it says correct voltage check, excessive cable length, undersized cable, power supply, different things like that. So it gives you additional things to even look for, beyond just the basic stuff that's on the flow chart. And like I said, we find these very useful as far as for electrical troubleshooting. And like I said, a lot of the compressors we get back as far as in warranty, 30% of them no fault found, which just gives an indication that somebody was not that familiar with how to check the system and what to look for. So they basically took a good compressor and returned it and put another compressor in, which is not a good idea for the end user because the compressors are expensive. Where they could have just basically replaced a start component or even checked a connection on something to fix the whole system. So like I said, we find these very useful for troubleshooting electrically. Now the second sheet, which would be the startup and troubleshooting system checklist. Yeah, that's the guy.
So Randy, we did have a question come in. Oh, yeah. Can we send these out? And yes, I will send these out as PDFs. But again, we can order them. We can order them for you and have them sent out. They may be a little bit more durable than a PDF that you print off. Or if you wanted to take them to Staples or FedEx office or whatever and print them off in a larger size and have them laminated, that's fine. That would certainly work as well.
Yeah, like I said, I find them very handy. And my guys, James and John, they both have them on their desk, I know. and it gets to the point where you use them so much, and now it's second nature. So you know what to ask when you're walking through a troubleshooting issue with a contractor. And like I said, I'm hoping that it saves a lot of compressors coming back where they say no fault found. And that was the whole idea as far as getting the information out in front of people, make it more visual, and kind of easier to understand, and basically save some compressors.
Yeah. Hey, one other thing, and Mark Walczak just texted this to me. He brought up a really good point. Probably by the time it gets to your guy at the counter or the call comes in to you, it may be too late. The guy may already be bringing in the compressor. Mark, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Get these things out into the hands of your contractors as well. Head it off at the pass, and if you can get one of these on every truck or in every contractor's hands, that's one less call that might come in. Yeah, the service manager. Yep.
Get some of these sent out. We can send out some of those too that he uses, that Randy uses on his desk, and so do I. It's the same kind of thing. Send them out to those guys, and have your salespeople, when they are able to get back out to them, send them out there. But you may just want to get 10 or 15 copies of these. Send it to your biggest guys that you've worked with, the service manager. So, like Julie said, it helps before they bring the compressor in, and we're already screwed at that point.
Right. I mean, it's a great training tool for the newer technicians as well. I mean, how do you troubleshoot a compressor? Well, you put your meter to it, and it doesn't sound right or doesn't seem right. You take the compressor out, you put a new one in. Well, you might have just thrown away a good compressor. So like I said, it's a great tool we use for troubleshooting, and it would be a great training tool as well as far as for the contractors and anybody out in the field.
I would also echo that, Randy, that we all know, at least on the air conditioning side of the business, even with scroll compressors, there's companies like Arco that are quote unquote, rebuilding and remanufacturing scroll compressors, which is just, unbelievable. But frankly, if 1/3 of the compressors that come in are no fault found, that means, potentially 1 in 3 of the compressors that ends up in Arco's hands, they don't have to do anything with it, and they can just turn right around, polish it up and sell it. We're also hearing that there's a rebuilder out there that's starting to remanufacture, rebuild refrigeration scroll compressors. So, if you're not sending something in for special inspection, when it comes to a scroll compressor, make sure that what did we decide, Mark and Randy? Can you take a screwdriver to the fusite to completely disable the thing so that it can't end up in the hands of a rebuilder? Is that the easiest, fastest thing to do?
The easiest way would be to take a hammer and crack the fusite. Basically, just hit the pins, and now crack the fusite. And unless they've got a process to recoin that shell and to reinsert a new fusite, which I don't believe a lot of the rebuilders have that. That compressor is no good to them anymore.
Okay, I'll switch it over to the other, let me check and make sure there were not any other comments here. Let's see. We did have a question. I'd like to learn more about low pumpers. I get calls on jobs that seem to be low capacity. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, well, let's go to the startup and troubleshooting system checklist.
Okay, we'll do that. Good.
Okay. This is a sheet that I designed as far as, there's a lot of different sheets like this out there that different OEMs or different wholesalers, contractors use, to either do a startup sheet where they would go to a initial system, get it running, and then document the running conditions of the system, and then put that piece of paper in the packet. That way it's there when they come back, 5 years later and have to troubleshoot something, they know what the baseline was or how the system was operating. So again, we use this sheet quite a bit as well as far as for the troubleshooting portion of it. And again, this is a sheet that I would love to have a pack in every contractor's truck out in the industry, because it is a very handy tool. You know, a lot of times we'll send this tool out or this sheet out and ask a contractor to fill it out based on what he's seeing on his system. And you can see I've got it set up where it's, you know, kind of shows the compressor. It goes to the condenser and all the way through the system. So as you're putting the numbers in as far as your discharge pressure and temperature and different things like that, it kind of walks you right through the system. You know, and basically it gives you an idea of what that refrigerant is doing in the system and what the compressor is doing. You know, it kind of gives you a better visual of the entire system. Now in the center of that block, you see there's compressor model number, serial number, unit number, just a lot of basic information about the system that would help us troubleshoot a system as well. Because, you know, we get phone calls in where they say they're working on a system and it's got a black compressor in it, but I don't know what the model number is. And that when you get something like that, it's really hard to determine, you know, what the performance is supposed to be because we just don't have enough information. So by
hey, Randy,
yeah.
Randy, can you see the checklist? Mark Walczak said he's having trouble seeing the system checklist. I don't know if anybody else out there can.
But
okay.
And it's not full screen.
All right, here, let me see here. Is that better?
That's better.
See the whole thing now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I think Mark Walczak's just not, he must be looking at something else.
Yeah, we'll have to work on Mark later on.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, as I was saying, you know, a lot of times we'll send this sheet out to the contractor, and we'll say just, you know, go back to the system, fill it out, and 9 times out of 10 they don't call back. Why? Because they put all the information in front of themselves, and now they can see what's going on with the system and they understand it. They've done the calculations, you know, the superheat calculations for the compressor and the evaporator, the subcooling calculations, you know, it's all there. So once they get this data set out, it basically shows them exactly how the system is operating, and if they are familiar with how a refrigeration system is supposed to work, they know what the trouble signs are. You know, as far as, okay, my superheat is 120. Well, that seems a little bit high. Or my superheat is 2. Well, that seems a little bit low. So it gives them an idea of what to look for in the system. And like I said, we would love to have these things out to every contractor. You know, again, they have a part number on the sheet also, which is form number 2018 ECT-3. Which again, when they purchase these, they come in, I think, a pack of 50. So you get a pack of 50 sheets where you can pull one off and use it on your job. You know, save it as a startup or use it as a troubleshooting tool. So like I said, we find these really handy as well. On the back side of that sheet, I don't know if you could flip that over to the next slide there, Julie. It has the arrow chart.
I don't think I have the arrow chart.
Okay.
Do you have it, or James, are you on?
I've got it here, but basically that email that you sent me, the attachment, there was a 2-page attachment. You just scan down, it shows the second one.
Oh, hey, look at that.
There it is.
I'm the one that needs some help today. Okay.
There you go. And again, this is not something that me or my team designed, but it's basically just a system problem checklist. And if you can go through there, you see the left-hand column is system problems, and then you've got the different pressures and temperatures across the top. Discharge pressure, suction pressure, superheat, subcooling, and current. And if you go through and you run the check mark and say, okay, I've got high discharge pressure, I've got high suction pressure, high superheat, high subcooling, and high amps, you could go down that chart and say, okay, with all the arrows pointing up, you know, it seems like I might have a dirty condenser. So that would be something that they would want to look at, as far as helping them troubleshoot the system. And again, like I said, we didn't develop this. This is something that's been out in the in the world for years and years, but it is fairly accurate. And like I said, it's just something to point somebody in the right direction. A lot of the compressors and condensing units that are in the market anymore have their core sense, or they have the alarm tools on them where they actually will tell you what to look for, which is really handy, and we like that a whole lot. We're getting a lot of chat over here. So, okay.
Yes,
but
they're
anyway.
asking for the form numbers, so we're putting them out there. And we did have a question from AC asking if this can be added to Copeland Mobile. I will tell you that this system checklist is not on Copeland Mobile, but I do believe that these charts, these troubleshooting guides, are part of Fault Finder.
They are. If you were to go to Fault Finder, and where you come up on the Fault Finder, the initial screen, where it says, I do not have a compressor module, if you were to click on that, it leads directly to those flow charts. And depending on which item you select on the top, it will run you down that tree as far as the flow chart.
And I will tell you, we are going to do an overview on Fault Finder, excuse me, probably in the next week or two. We're in the process of adding the XCM25D module, electronic module, to Fault Finder because it's part of the X-line condensing unit. And so once that is added, we'll go ahead and run through Fault Finder and show, basically all of how this decision tree works. Although if we get a time slot, maybe we'll go ahead and plug that in and then just come back and show the XCM25D when we have time. But I think AC's question was more, and actually let me just go ahead and unmute you, AC. Was your question about the decision tree being added, or did you want this system troubleshooting checklist added?
No, the troubleshooting checklist.
The troubleshooting checklist. Okay. I will pose that question to them. There's a lot of information on here. So how I guess I would see that working is you could enter in the information and then potentially we could tie that information to the compressor. Let's say you scan the serial number, use Copeland Mobile to scan the serial number. It would populate the model number. If it was part of a unit, it would also pull that information in. And then you could run through, you would have to kind of obviously self-populate all of this information.
Right.
But then I think we could potentially store that within Copeland Mobile so that the next time you came back, instead of having to reference back to the system checklist, it could come up as part of the job history. I think you could also, you could save it, and we could also enable it so that you could share that information and send that information to maybe a Copeland technical specialist for support. That's a great idea. I'm going to take that as my own idea and not give you any credit at all, AC.
That's okay. That's
no,
it's all good.
No, absolutely.
You could take that one.
I
got enough in the bucket, dude. I got enough ideas in the bucket. I could spare you that one.
No, I don't want to take. I'm not gonna take your. I don't want to steal your thunder, man. But yeah, I'll put that to the team and see what we can do about that for sure.
Okay.
Now to that point, the Copeland Mobile also has some of that capability. So if you were to go to Copeland Mobile, put in your model number of your unit or your compressor, and then if you go to performance, you can go to dynamic performance, and you could put in the actual pressures and temperatures that you're seeing on your system, and it'll give you what your capacity should be. It'll give you what your current should be, and everything else down the list there. So if you got one of the questions came up as far as, okay, I've got a low pumper. And again, a low pumper, could be a little bit of anything. But if you were to, dial the performance on the compressor, you could say, okay, my current is this, my suction pressure and discharge pressure is that, and go to, if you scan down a little bit, where you got dynamic, okay. And
I'm in dynamic, yep.
Okay.
You want me to put in some different values here?
Yeah, it just, I don't think I want to flood this thing back or anything, but. So.
I have no idea what numbers to put in, so I'm just
okay,
gonna
put 10 there. That's good.
10 here.
Okay. So if you hit
Okay.
calculate, and it will give you the compressor capacity that you should be seeing. It'll give you the efficiency, the watts, the mass flow, the isotropic efficiency, the amps, what your liquid temperature should be, and discharge temperature, the whole 9 yards. So it gives you a good idea as far as, based on the information that you put in above, this is what your compressor should be doing. And again, if there's say if you have a condensing temperature that is much higher, you could type 140 in here and see what that does for you. And again, with 4048, it might kick you out. Yeah. So let's do 130 in there. That's probably closer to the top of the range. And you can see as you go down, your capacity dropped quite a bit, and your discharge temperature jumped up. So that could point you in a direction of, hey, I don't have enough condenser on this system. Or
so we just had a question come in from Mike Nolly. Let's see, if current exceeds RLA, will it come up red or flagged? Do we do any kind of?
I don't know if it does.
Okay, I'm gonna actually take a screenshot of that question, and we will. I'm gonna pose that to our team. Yeah, I'll send that question over to the. Oh, Bill Atkinson is saying click on diagnostics. That's right. There is.
There you go.
Oh
man.
Because I know if you do put the information there, it's outside of the operating envelope, it's going to give you that restriction note that we had when I 140.
You're right, though, Bill. If we do come over here to, and I can't remember what my values were. What was it 2120 or what did we say, 130?
Okay, and just the heads up, we're in process of correcting the call out on this as far as if it's over 15%, it'll give you the troubleshooting for what to look for if it's over current. But the function as far as undercurrent, the 15 to 20% undercurrent, that line item was kind of messed up in the programming, and it actually just diverts right back to the high current. So we are in process of switching that back to, if it's 15% low, it's going to give you a different set of troubleshooting guides. So you can expect that in the coming weeks here. As far as it should be a fairly quick fix. I've got a meeting with the programmer on Thursday actually to do that.
Perfect. No, this has all been great feedback. And then we did have a question about is there a link in Copeland Mobile for Fault Finder? I don't know if there is or not, but that's another great question. We kind of had all of these different apps, but now over the course of the last 5 or 8 years, and now it feels like we're kind of just standardizing on Copeland Mobile, which is where we need to be. But we do need to fold in some of the other functionality of Fault Finder. There's no reason we couldn't, put one of these tabs along the left-hand side. There's no reason it couldn't be Fault Finder, and it would just bring up the same functionality of Fault Finder within Copeland Mobile, so you wouldn't even necessarily have to leave this app. So.
Yeah. Now, another thing that I really like on this Copeland Mobile is if you go to Application Engineering Bulletin, the AE book in the bottom there, you can actually go to frequently asked questions. And like I said, a lot of the questions that we get, originally we basically reverse engineered all the application engineering bulletins. So we went line by line and basically developed questions on how the compressor, how the system is supposed to work. So we've got all that data in there, and then we're also populating it based on what the contractors and what the wholesalers are calling in and asking questions about. So we're trying to.
So I'll tell you though that, yeah, the user interface is a little different on the desktop version versus the app version. So on the desktop version, I think it's taking you directly and dropping you into OPI. But on the app version, I think it will take you to the AE Bulletin app. So it may look a little bit different.
I guess just a quick note, you know, and again, I've talked to different wholesalers and counter people, and I hear once in a while where they say, you know, that Copeland Mobile is great, but my boss doesn't want me filling on my phone while I'm at the counter. Does everybody know that this is now desktop capable? And basically you could load it right onto your PCs or to your screen at the counter and not have to fiddle through your phone to get all this information. Because honestly, anytime somebody calls in, you know, that's exactly where we're going to pull this information. You know, it's, you know, you may think that James, John, and myself are brilliant and stuff like that, and we appreciate that. But we're basically sitting in front of a computer just the same as anybody else. We pull this information up, and you know, through experience, we're able to kind of explain it a little better than just reading right off the script or right out of the application engineering bulletin, hopefully. So like
that's a good point, and I will. Yep, I'm going to send that link out. I'll send that link out when I send out all the materials from this. So, well, listen, we are right up at 1 o'clock. I appreciate everybody's time, all the interaction. We will, and Randy, thank you for answering the bell on short notice here.
Not a problem.
I'm going to get these files out to you as soon as I can, and everybody have a great day.
All right, have a great day, and enjoy your Easter weekend.
Absolutely.
Bye now.